Welcome, people of the World Wide Web. So it is Cypher Sigma here, and finally, as the title, it is Box Office Bombs. So yes, so this is kind of my new intermittent series. It comes up and down, takes a lot of research from my part, and trying to formulate opinions on it, which is why I don't do these very often, but I hope to do them so as often as I can. Please do let me know in the comments down below if there are any movies you feel are box office bombs and want me to go over. I'm more than happy to consider those. So let's get into the intro first. And as we have done that, the intro's here, and you know from the title, it is John Carter. So this is Disney's John Carter. Very, very interesting that the tagline on this is Star Wars for a New Generation, and I'll get a bit into that more later. So anybody who hasn't seen this, doesn't know anything about this, John Carter, or John Carter of Mars as it was going to be called, was a movie released by Disney in 2012. It is 2 hours and 12 minutes long. 2 hours and 12 minutes long. And basically stars Taylor Kirst hot off his Gambit, or around about the Gambit role from the Wolverine movie, with Lynn Collins, William Dafoe and Dominic West. So with a few other celebrities kind of thrown in, not the biggest well-known cast of that time, but Taylor Kirst, he plays the pivotal role, John Carter. Lynn Collins plays Dijen Torres. William Dafoe plays the four-armed Martian of Tarkus, and Dominic West plays Saab Thorne, who's kind of the villain-esque of this show, with Mark Strong as a kind of celestial being in and out of this. This movie was made for a box office budget of £284.1 million, and it's made or grossed 306.6 million. So it did make more than essentially what it was made to produce. The one it made a difference basically of £22.5 million. Unfortunately, there seems to be a lot of question marks over advertising and other stuff that was involved with this, and they say that even though the difference between what the movie may cost to make to what it was actually to release it, or made at release, that it actually lost between 149 to 265 million for Disney. So that is that is almost the cost of the movie they've lost in a profit. So not very good at all. Obviously, John Carter of Mars is from the books. It was released on March 9th, 2012, which coincided with 100 years since the books were originally made. So the books, or the person who wrote the books, he wrote a set of books called the Barsoom series, which is several books, and this is what this movie was essentially taken from. The author who did this also created the Tarzan world, so the ape man that obviously Disney have used in previous movies. So let's get in if you have or haven't seen it. So we'll go into the story first. So we have Taylor Kirst here. He is in the Central Civil War. He has lost his wife and his family. You don't really know the reasons why at first. And he is basically drafted to be part of this military. This is all kind of the story chronological, but outside of that you have him later on, and you kind of don't understand. He basically sends a letter to his nephew, and his nephew is arrived to him, and there's stuff going on. This is the future. You then kind of have this story of him being drafted, trying to escape many times of the military, until he gets into an altercation with some Indians where him and a general have to hide. The general played by Bryan Cranston, obviously of Breaking Bad fame. He goes into this cave, and as they go into this cave, they finds that this cave is actually a transportation area where these creatures can, and one of these humanoid looking creatures comes through. John Carter basically manages to kill him, but unfortunately the creature's dying words activate this kind of necklace, and it teleports John Carter to Mars. He does not realise that he is on Mars. He is taken in by Tarkin's tribe as he sees that he can jump. There is a big confusion about what his name is. They don't get how the name is, and they think he's called Virginia when he's on it. And it is essentially because he's been on Earth's gravitational gravity, and it's more dense. Then obviously when he comes to Mars, he can jump quite hard, and then he kind of comes to be a savior, so to speak, trying to bring the worlds together, because the alien that he's encountered, these have corrupted a race who are fighting kind of the government and kind of keeping this separation. This is the government that are, or the bad guy, played obviously by Dominic West. He's trying to overthrow the good guys and trying to marry the daughter Dejan Torres. So that is how kind of the story goes, and it is him learning to it. There are some fun creatures and stuff in there, as Disney always like to do. But that is, you know, you have his story, and it's loosely based, I think, on 2 of the books. So my opinion of it is, and just going into it, is that I really like this movie. I've always been quite a big fan since the beginning. I think it has a lot of issues, and there's a lot of stuff that could have been done better. But I enjoy it. If you go on IMDb, you will see a lot of people do actually say that, you know, this got slated and slandered quite early on when it was released. But everybody seems to be on IMDb more or less rates it as a really, really good movie. And I think when you take the kind of, as I've had before, when there's a lot of people saying it's rubbish, it's really hard for you to kind of block that out and enjoy it. Sometimes it kind of creates like this negativity wave. But why did it make so little money? Why was it a box office? And there are, I think, a lot of issues. So originally from the books that this comes from, this created a fictional world of sci-fi. What I didn't know until reading up on this is that a lot of elements of this, George Lucas took inspiration. So the Star Wars worlds that we have today have inspiration from the books. So what was original for these books, unfortunately, has been used so much as Star Wars, because we know there's so much of Star Wars around. I think it was really hard for to try and carve itself out of its own universe, so to speak, because Star Wars is so there, and obviously then you have Star Trek, and you have all these other sci-fi worlds, aliens and stuff like this. It is hard to kind of have this kind of new rich world. The elements kind of already been taken from them. Obviously they don't have lightsabers or anything, but you know, you can kind of get that feeling there. I say, and kind of there is kind of no, a lot of backstory I feel is missing to this. And I say that there is kind of 3 books that were centered around, there was going to be 3 movies, but essentially 2 out of 3 books were squished into this, and it shows the story kind of doesn't give enough time to flesh out the world, flesh out the races, and there are different ones. I think quite a bit of a problem is some of the character designs. So you have the Martians human race, so to speak, and then you have Dominic West's. Now Dominic West and the King and kind of the General and a few of them, they all almost look, they kind of have all the same haircut. There's just different slight features. The actors look quite alike as well, and I think that throws you off quite a lot. Some of them, they have facial paintings and paint like that, like tribal markings. But that isn't explained. It isn't. At least War and Factions there isn't too much explained, except for Dominic West is the bad guy, and he's kind of been given this crystallite power, which crystallite power looks cool, but it doesn't flesh out the world. You then have the Martians, the Tarkin's race, who have their own diplomatic issues, and they kind of have a gladiatorial fight in it, which is a little bit like the Clone Wars movie. Or you can take bits from there, but it has the apes. There's a bit more, if you probably explained more of the world and maybe had this Royal War as a second movie, would have worked far better. It definitely, in my eyes, I think, taking the time. I mean, the world is rich and it is nice, and there are issues with some of the CG in some bits. But as I say, because there is so much out there, I think they needed to take a bit more time of carving out something that is a bit more unique but of such a good quality, and not trying to rush stuff. So that's just my opinion. That's what I see. As I say, a lot of people rate this really well. I really like the movie anyway, and I've watched it multiple times. I say I've watched the DVD multiple times, and I bought the Blu-ray even for this one. So you have that. It did not have a lot of marketing as a lot of Disney movies do. There was no merchandise that was really released for this. Like, there were old figures of Tarzan and John Carter of Mars, so to speak, that world. There was a figure line that they probably could have caved into and tried to do it, because Disney are known for that, but unfortunately that didn't happen. And why that didn't happen is mainly down to the director, so Andrew Stanton. So Andrew Stanton, anybody who doesn't know, is a Disney director. He's been an actor, he's been a writer, he's been involved in a lot of movies before this, obviously A Bug's Life, Finding Nemo, WALL-E, and then after this, the next thing he did was Finding Dory, and then he's directed episodes of Better Call Saul, Legion, Stranger Things, and he will be the director of Toy Story 5 when we get it, I think next year when this video goes out. So he does have experience in the CG world, but for some reason he was tasked with this directorial role, and a lot of stuff you read on it, it seemed like utter chaos. For Andrew, he took this role to basically learn to be a director of a live action. He had done CG, he wanted to learn this to be live action. He is quoted on record for saying, "I'm not going to get this right, but it's, you know, like the experience." For me, that's not a good sign starting off. I mean, he does really well with CG, so a lot of it's CG in space and stuff like that. Some of it does really work and is really nice. He has kind of that background in that side of things. But when you have live action, and when you have actors and actresses that you have to then create a story, and that you are limited to a more adult themed story, I would say, rather than kind of the kiddie or younger audiences that have been like with A Bug's Life and Finding Nemo, and such a big world, it takes a lot on, and it seems that he wouldn't listen to advice. From what I can see behind the scenes marketing, he was advised and he didn't want to do it. He wanted to do this stuff, his things, his way. He cost more money than what it was. And it seems to be that this guy, I mean, how it was 4 years before he really did anything else. And obviously he then did Finding Dory, and Finding Dory made loads of money. So he kind of, this is a blip on his CV, so to speak. Why he was chosen to be this, I mean, due to the fact of how bad this movie lost money, the president of Disney, or the CEO of Disney, stepped down, even though that person wasn't even in the job when Andrew Stanton was given a role. So I feel like he should have been more accountable for this movie. And I'm not saying that it's a bad movie in that, but the amount of money that it lost was down to like his not taking advice from his strategy. And yes, it's good to learn, but you've cost, I say, if you take the max figure, 265 million, you've cost the Disney company, and you aren't held responsible. Someone else gets fired. I think that's a bit bad in this day and age, even though it's 12 years ago. But that seems to be the major factor that is coming out, and there are too many mentions of it and quotes from even Andrew Stanton himself that obviously seem that he was the kind of cancer in this that caused the bad side of things. Now I say, if he had taken his time, if he had decided, look, right, I'm only going to use the first book, I'm going to flesh the world out, because the story for the most part is really good. It has a quite clever ending, and I think it is, you know, I just think more learning of the world in the first movie would have worked so much better for the second one. You would have built that kind of people wanting more. Obviously with Star Wars, taking your time a bit more to flesh out the world meant you could take more time to be more distinctive in the fields of Barsoom, or what is called Mars, and stuff like this, and learning it, and it would slow down the pace a little bit on the story, which I think would work quite well. There are a few elements where John Carter coming to realisation that his wife and daughter have been killed seemed a bit weird. I mean, I say I've not read the book, so I don't know I can't take it out of context. It just seems weird. He seems to have kind of something with him, but you don't really know it, only in like 1 or 2 points. And then near the end, it's like this big realization that they got killed. And I'm like, but it doesn't really make much change to the story. I didn't know why it was put there, and obviously that comes down to the director, because obviously they direct the movie and shape it into what they want it to be. My characters, I think, work. I say for the post part, work really well if you'd understand more the hierarchy of this race, and maybe had a bit more, like 5 minutes more of, there is a warring faction, and Dominic West is the bad guy and something like this, and then you have the kind of alter being turn up, and then like being like, right, I can help you because we want to do this, and having kind of a bit more of a shady side of things, and kind of linking to where they may be from, and something I think would work so much better. Having him in the military and stuff like this was all right. There were some funny moments for it, but again, there was quite a lot of build up. I think it's like 20 minutes, half an hour before he even gets to Mars. And I say this is quite a long movie. It's over 2 hours long. But I say I enjoyed it. I don't think it deserves the hate it does. And from IMDb and people who review this, I think we kind of agree the same. But unfortunately, with something that you've waited 100 years to release this specifically, you could have, this could have been a good trilogy franchise. And I'm kind of thinking of like the Planet of the Apes, like they've redone them. You could take your time, they may not be spectacular movies or earn massive amounts of money, but there was like a kind of dog creature and stuff, and I was like, if you'd had toys of this, if someone had seen that, oh, there's an old toy line, let's buy the rights to this, or if we have the rights, let's try and buy them and redo them, and that would, you would have made more money on it, like Transformers do and Power Rangers and stuff, with selling toys and merchandise and stuff like this. Like there was a lot of talk at the time about the campaigning, and I was like, I didn't see any campaign for it. Supposedly how the trailer was even cut, and the music and stuff used in it goes against the whole story of what the film was. And as I say, I just think it isn't a bad film, and with the right people behind it, with kind of changing slightly of the story, better advertisement, better toys and stuff like this could have actually been quite a profitable movie. But unfortunately, I think it is that the person running the ship just wanted to, just wanted the experience of it, and and he got away without the accountability. I'm not saying, if I ever meet him in person, I'm not going to say, like, it's your fault and all this stuff like this, but I kind of do feel that in movies nowadays, when you're a director, you create this one, and you need to be accountable a little bit and take responsibility of, it doesn't matter if it's, you could say, yeah, it's a good movie, but I lost the studio a lot of money, and that kind of should have been a bit on you more than anything else, than other people. But anyway, that has been episode 2 of Box Office Bombs. Have you seen this movie? What are your thoughts and feelings? Is it as bad as people as spoken about in the past, or do you actually quite like it? If you do, always say, just drop a comment or anything else. And as I say, if there's anything you feel that I should be mentioned in the next video, if there's a new movie you want me to talk that you think of Box Office Bomb, please do let me know as well, and I will take that into review when I do episode 3. Otherwise, I've been Cypher Sigma Screen Time. Thank you for watching this video, and I shall see you in the next one.